Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're drilling down into the treatment landscape for advanced non-small cell lung cancer.
Specifically for patients with those common EGFR mutations.
Exactly. And if you've been following this space, you know the conversation has been dominated by targeted therapies like Osimertinib. For a while, we've focused on an earlier metric, progression-free survival, or PFS. How long until the cancer starts growing again?
But that's not the ultimate goal.
No. Today, we're moving past that to the metric that really changes everything for patients and for practice. Overall survival, OS.
That really is the whole game. We're looking at the final OS data from a huge international phase 3 trial.
And this is for a very specific group.
It is. We're talking about patients with advanced NSCLC, the ones with either the exon 19 deletion or the L858R mutation.
And crucially, these are patients who haven't had any treatment yet for their advanced disease.
That's right. And the initial data, it already showed us that combining the targeted drug with chemo-delayed progression.
But the big question remained.
Does that combination actually translate into people living longer? Now we finally have the answer.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission here is twofold. First, we need those final hard numbers on overall survival.
And second,
we have to understand the trade-off. Because when you add potent chemotherapy to the mix, you're completely changing the side effect profile.
you certainly are.
We're using the final analysis from 557 randomly assigned patients to figure out if adding that platinum pemetrexed to osimertinib is truly worth the clinical cost.
Let's get into it.
So let's start by defining the battlefield here. The study randomized 557 patients pretty evenly.
Yep, 279 in the combination arm and 278 in the monotherapy arm.
Okay, so before we get to the outcomes, let's be absolutely crystal clear on the two regimens being compared. What exactly were the treatments?
Well, you had the targeted precision of a third-generation TKI on one side,
Osimertinib.
right? And on the other, you had that same drug plus the added muscle of traditional chemo.
So what was in that monotherapy arm?
That was just osimertinib at 80 milligrams, taken once a day. This is the drug that, it really revolutionized this field.
Okay, and the other group? The combination.
The investigational arm got that same osimertinib dose, 80 milligrams daily, but it was combined with the platinum pemetrexed backbone.
And what does that mean exactly?
It means patients received pemetrexed, and on top of that, a platinum-based agent.
Yep.
That was either cisplatin or carboplatin. This is a classic, well-established chemotherapy regimen. It's serious systemic treatment.
So we're comparing a really sophisticated targeted drug by itself against that same drug, but, bolstered by the real heavy hitters of cancer treatment.
A good way to put it.
And we already knew the combination delayed recurrence. That was the PFS win.
Right.
But for years, proving that a PFS gain actually translates into a statistically confirmed overall survival gain, that's been a massive hurdle in oncology research.
It absolutely has, and that's what makes this final OS analysis so important. PFS tells you how long you can manage the disease, but OS tells you how long you live. And the translation between the two is always the biggest question mark.
So this is where it gets really interesting. After tracking all these patients over the long term, what did the survival curve actually look like? What are the headline numbers?
The results were definitive. For the monotherapy group, osimertinib alone, the median overall survival came in at 37.6 months.
Okay, so just over 3 years. That's a strong baseline.
It is. It's a very effective drug on its own.
Now, what about the combination group?
The osimertinib plus platinum pemetrexed group, their median overall survival was 47.5 months.
Wow, 47.5. That is nearly a full year longer, almost 10 months.
10 months longer survival, exactly.
That moves patients well past the 3-year mark and gets them closer to 4.
Yeah.
For advanced metastatic disease, a 10-month gain in median OS is. It's often considered transformative.
It's massive.
We see statistically significant results all the time, but the clinical size of this benefit seems enormous.
It is, and the statistics, they completely back it up. The hazard ratio, or HR, for death, which tells us the relative risk, was calculated at a very robust 0.77.
Okay, let's pause on that HR for a second. A 0.77, that means a 23% reduction in the risk of death for the combination arm.
Correct.
But what about the statistical certainty? What was the confidence interval around that?
That's the crucial detail. The 95% confidence interval for that hazard ratio was 0.61 to 0.96.
So the upper end is 0.96.
And the fact that it's firmly below 1.0 is what gives us that statistical confirmation. It means we're 95% confident the real benefit is at least a 4% reduction in risk.
And the p-value?
P-value was 0.02. That sealed the deal. This is a statistically significant definitive survival benefit for adding chemo.
So what does this all mean for a clinician? The study is pretty clear.
It is.
It strongly suggests that combining osimertinib with traditional chemotherapy provides a real, confirmed overall survival benefit in this patient group. On the surface, it feels like the combination should be the new default.
That would be the simple takeaway, yes.
But as you said at the start, a 10-month gain is only half the story.
It is.
We have to talk about what that extra time costs patients in terms of treatment burden. We can't just look at efficacy in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Let's pivot to the adverse event profile.
This is the clinical reality check. The toxicity is what makes this decision so complex.
Right.
And we're not just talking minor side effects. We need to compare the rates of high-grade adverse events, that's grade 3 or higher, between the two arms.
So events serious enough to need medical intervention, maybe even hospitalization.
Exactly. So in the osimertinib monotherapy arm, high-grade AEs were reported in 34% of the patients.
Okay, 34%. That's already about 1 in 3 patients having a severe event.
It's significant, yes.
And what happens when you add the platinum pemetrexed into that regimen?
The rate more than doubles. In the combination group, grade 3 or higher adverse events were reported in a full 70% of those patients.
70%. That's stark. We're talking 7 out of 10 patients facing a severe adverse event. Compared to 3 out of 10 on the monotherapy,
It's a massive jump.
that 36 percentage point difference completely changes the conversation. It forces every decision to weigh survival against immediate quality of life.
It does, and you can see that toxicity in treatment endurance, too.
How so?
Well, look at the rates of people who had to stop taking osimertinib because of the side effects.
Okay.
In the monotherapy group, that was 7% of patients. In the combination group, that rose to 12%.
So still relatively low, but almost double. It shows that increased burden.
Exactly.
This brings us to a really critical part of the safety analysis. The idea that these severe adverse events were reversible.
A very important distinction.
Because toxicity is one thing, but if it's temporary, that changes the calculation. What does reversible really mean when you're talking about a 70% rate of grade 3 or higher events?
It is the defining feature of this trade-off. When we talk about grade 3 or higher events from a chemo regimen, things like neutropenia, severe fatigue, GI issues, the vast majority are immediate.
They're related to the chemo itself.
Yes, and they're expected to resolve once the chemo cycle is done or supportive care is given.
I see.
So reversible implies that the treatment burden is high and it's upfront, but it doesn't leave the patient with, say, permanent organ damage that can sometimes come from long-term targeted therapies.
So patients are signing up for a really rough initial period.
A very rough period. That's the 70% rate. But they're managing a temporary high-intensity burden that can be mitigated, not a cumulative, irreversible toxicity that builds over years.
And that distinction is how clinicians can justify it.
It's how they justify exposing 7 out of 10 patients to severe short-term risks for that huge long-term survival reward.
So we've laid out the entire decision matrix for you. You have this profound, statistically confirmed 10-month overall survival advantage. And on the other side of the scale, you have a substantial immediate increase in treatment burden, jumping from 34% to 70% high-grade adverse events.
Events which are, crucially, documented as being temporary or reversible.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what does this study really confirm?
Well, it's not just about a drug combo. It confirms a foundational principle, really. For this specific group of newly diagnosed patients, escalating the treatment intensity, it works.
It translates the PFS success directly to OS success.
It absolutely does. It confirms that the combination is better in the long run. The challenge now shifts entirely to patient selection.
Identifying who can handle it.
Who is fit enough, physically and logistically, to tolerate that high-intensity, upfront toxicity, knowing the reward on the back end is so significant.
So this knowledge is vital for anyone trying to understand the standard of care now. Treatment decisions require the clinician and the patient to actively weigh that near-year survival gain
against the patient's capacity to manage those much higher rates of serious, even if reversible, side effects.
It becomes a dynamic negotiation where a patient's overall health, their comorbidities, their fitness. That's just as important as the numbers from the study.
It has to be.
So, to recap the main outcome for you, the data is definitive. First-line treatment with osimertinib plus platinum pemetrexed chemotherapy significantly prolonged overall survival compared to osimertinib alone.
That's the headline. The median OS benchmark is now 47.5 months for the combo,
Versus 37.6 months for the monotherapy.
which raises an important question for you to consider as you synthesize all this.
Okay.
Given the overwhelming survival data, the combination offers the highest ceiling for life extension. But we know it comes with that massive immediate spike in serious side effects.
Right.
So how does the documented reversible nature of those AEs really influence practice? Does this mean the combo is only for the fittest patients? Or does that 10-month OS gain mandate, we use it for everyone and just get much more aggressive with supportive care to get them through?
It's the ultimate trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quantity of life versus immediate quality of life.
And now you have the data to really consider that trade-off.